Hello students, and welcome back to the second day of Algebra Online. Your entry task, flip grids at the link. You've already found the YouTube lesson if you're here. You should do this problem in your notes, so you should pause the video and try that problem, and unpause it to see if you're right, because I'm going to do it now. So, we are going to start with d plus 6 times 2d minus plus 7. Can you change that d to an x if you don't like d? Yes, you can. Yes, you can, but I don't care. Okay. First thing we're going to do is we're going to take the first term and we're going to give it to everything inside of the parentheses. So d times 2d squared is 2d cubed, because now there's 3 d's. We have the d from the first term and then the d squared from the second term, so we now have 3 d's. D and negative d is negative d squared, because a positive and a negative make a positive. And d times 7 is 7d. 7d, not 70. Okay. Alright, beautiful. Next, we're going to move on to the second term. We're going to look at these 6. We're going to give a 6 to everything inside the second set of parentheses. So 6 times 2 is 12. So we have 12d squared. 6 times negative d is negative 6d. And 6 times 7 is 42. Plus, because it's positive. Okay, now all we have to do is put these things together. Add these together. And you can notice how I put together my d cubes, my d squares, and my d's and my normal numbers. I kind of already lined them up just like we did when we added polynomials. Alright, so 2d cubed plus nothing is 2d cubed. Minus, remember there's an imaginary 1 here, always. So negative 1 and 12 together. Oh, I'm gonna sneeze. Oh no. Excuse me. Goodness gracious. Negative 1 plus 12, well that's just 11d squared. 7 minus 6, that's just 1d. I can put 1d, or I can just put d, same thing. And then nothing plus 42, just 42. And there you have it. We have multiplied that binomial and that trinomial together. Awesome. Fantastic. Thanks for working on that. Next up, today, the learning target and success criteria for today is that you know what the square of a binomial pattern is, and the success criteria is that you can use this pattern to find the squares of binomials. That's kind of confusing right now, but don't worry about it, because as we go throughout the lesson, it will make more sense. The first thing you're going to do is write this down. This is important information, so pause the video and write down what is in that blue box there. And then unpause the video so that we can talk about it together. Square of a binomial pattern. So when it says square of a binomial, it means that we have a binomial here because we have two terms. A is a term and B is a term. So this is a binomial and we're squaring it. Same thing here. We have a binomial and we are squaring it. So this in the blue box is a very generic way of putting it. Any A and B can be anything, and this covers all the cases because we have A and B are both positive, and we have A minus B. So this covers all cases. They will, anytime you square a binomial, it's going to look something like this blue box up here. They have examples over here. I want to break this down even further for you. So we'll take this one and we'll do it again ourselves. What does it mean to square something? For example, if we took y squared, that would mean y times y. So this is the same thing. When I take x plus 5 squared, what I'm really saying is x plus 5 times x plus 5. Now, we could just do it like this every time, and we can FOIL it, and we're going to get the exact same thing. So if you don't like this pattern that we're using, you could always FOIL it. Doesn't matter. You get the same thing. But this is a much faster way of foiling things. When we're squaring one binomial, there's a nice, easy pattern that works every time. So might as well use the pattern. But if you really hate it, you can FOIL it. So let's take a look at when we FOIL it, what we get. I'm going to take x times x and x times 5x. So this will be x squared. The first terms give me x squared. And the outside terms give me plus 5x. Let's change colors here. Then I'll do 5 times x and 5 times 5. So this will be another plus 5x, and 5 times 5 is 25. Okay. We'll change colors again, and we'll put it all together. X squared, and these are both an x, so we'll put them together. 5 plus 5 is 10x plus 25. So this x plus 5 squared is actually equal to this right here. And what you'll notice is that this first term right here, that's exactly just x squared. The last term right here, the 25, that's just 5 squared. And in between here, this middle term, what you have, 10 is 5 times 2, and then there's an x coming along for the ride there. So the way we get the first term, the way we get the x, is just by squaring the first term. The way we get the last term is just by squaring the second term. And the way we get the middle term is a little bit weird. You have to multiply 2 times x times 5. And that's exactly what this says right here, is that we're going to take 2 times whatever the first thing was, times whatever the second thing was. So here the first thing was a, and the second thing was b, so we have 2 times a times b. Here it was x and 5, so we have 2 times x times 5, which simplifies to 10x. If this is confusing, don't worry about it. Take a look at the example, and hopefully that clears things up for you. And remember that if you have questions, you can always tune into Mrs. Dodge's live stream, which will be happening around noon today. Okay, so next we will move on to the example, using the square of a binomial pattern. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to rewrite that pattern. I'm going to rewrite a plus b squared was equal to a squared plus 2ab plus b squared. Okay, all right. So you can do this the foiling way, or you can do it the pattern way. I'm going to do it the pattern way because I think it's easier. So, first thing, for our a squared term, what we need to do is we need to take the first term, and we need to square it. So we're going to do 3x, all of that squared. The whole thing squared. And remember, when the whole thing is squared, it means that everything inside that parentheses gets a square. So this is 3 squared, x squared. 3 squared is 9. And the x squared just stays by itself. Okay, more color coding, because why not? For this middle term, I need 2 times a. So 2 times 3x times b. I'm going to say that again. 2 times a times b. What that means is 2 times the first term times the second term. So 2 times 3x, because that's first, times 4, because that's second. let's see, 2 times 3 is 6, and 6 times 4 is 24, and that x will come along for the ride. So how I did that was 2 times 3 is 6, and then 6 times 4, 24. Okay, and last but not least, we'll do the b squared term. So that's this last one squared. So we have 4 squared, which is, oh, you can't even see the 4 squared. There we go. 4 squared, which is 16. Now, don't forget that our final answer is supposed to look something like this. Our final answer needs to be all added together. So you guessed it, I'm going to add all of these things together and take 9. We're going to take 9x squared plus 24x plus 16. And if we had foiled this guy, if we had foiled him out, we would have seen that our answer would be, ooh, that's a bad arrow. Our answer would have been this. Okay. Alright, second one. If you want to pause the video and try the second one on your own, I would highly recommend it. Otherwise, let's do it together right now. Okay, so, same pattern, but now, let's do this in another color. We have a minus b squared, which is very similar. That's a b. That is a squared minus 2ab plus b. So same thing, only that middle term is going to have a minus instead of a plus. Okay, let's jump right in. So I still notice that the first term is squared. So we're going to do that. We're going to take 5x and square it. Remember, that means that everything in the parentheses gets a square. 5 squared is 25. And the x squared stays just like it is. Cool. First term, last term, the a squared and the b squared are nice and easy in my opinion. It's the middle one that gets a little bit tricky. So let's do that together. 2. So we're going to take minus 2 times a. And remember, a is the first term here. So minus 2 times 5x. So that was the a. Now we need the b. The b is our second term here. Oh, whoops. Shouldn't have that minus there because the minus is going to be taken into account right here. Minus 2y. So I still take 2. The minus is going to come on its own. So I'm just going to take 2 times the first term times 5x times the second term, negative 2y. So 2 times 5 is 10. 10 times negative 2 is negative 20 times x times y. Can I put the x's and the y's together? No. No, I cannot. And the reason for that is because they're apples and oranges. Remember, the x's are apples, the y's are oranges. We can't put those together. So, that term will stay just like it is, negative 20 x, y. And now it is time for the last term, for the b squared. So all we're going to do is take the second term, the negative 2y, we're going to square it. And remember, that means that everything, the negative 2 gets a square, and the y gets a square. Remember, the negative 2 goes in parentheses, because otherwise it's just negative 2 squared. And we want negative 2 squared. Okay, so negative 2 squared, negative 2 times negative 2 is positive 4. And the y squared stays just like it is. Now, all we have to do is put all of these things together. Put them all together. So 25x squared minus See, I told you the minus would come along for free. The minus right here, coming along for free. Minus 20xy plus 4y squared. Ta-da! So as long as you follow these patterns right here, these two patterns, not so bad. And the more you practice it, the easier it gets. The first few, you're like, what is going on? But the more you practice it, the better it feels. So if you take a look in our notes, of course, as always, you can see the solution. And if you have any questions, remember that there is Q&A on Mrs. Dodge's YouTube live stream from around 12 to 2 each day. So when you're done watching this lesson, you can just hop straight on over to the YouTube live. And yeah, go ask her questions if you need to. Ask me questions. I love questions. All right. Your classwork, homework, whatever you want to call it. I can't grade anything. I can't officially put anything in the grade book that you do over this break. So, well, break, whatever you want to call it. Closure, school closure. But I will give you extra points for it. So if you do it, I'll give you points for it. But if you don't do it, it's not gonna hurt you. But I would recommend that you do it. I would highly recommend that you do it. Keep your brain sharp during these 6 weeks. So those are the questions for your classwork. I'll post solutions in our Google Classroom in the solutions folder. When I will do that, I'm not quite sure. But I will do that at some point. All right. And lastly, your launch for today is from the Dalai Lama. If you feel burnout setting in, and what burnout is if you feel demoralized and exhausted, you've lost passion for the things that you really cared about before. So if you feel burnout setting in, it is best, for the sake of everyone, to withdraw and restore yourself. Withdraw, take some time for yourself away from the crazy, busy hecticness, and restore yourself. Restore your passion, restore your health, so that you are everything that you need to be, to have those passions and to do what you're passionate about. That is my launch for you today, as we finish this lesson and as you go throughout the rest of your day. So, take care of yourself. I care about you a lot. And have a great rest of your day. Hopefully I'll see you on the live stream. Toodles!